talking about SCADA and pen testing in SCADA environment. Okay, so before starting, there is a question: who am I? So I'm Rajarshi. Presently, I work for Deloitte. Previously, I was working with PwC, and also I'm associated with IAEA, which is the autonomous body for atomic energy research. So, well, I would give a small introduction of myself. I have started my career as an application security engineer. So I think most of you guys are working in application security domain. So just quickly a question like, what is your background? Like, I want to know about the backgrounds of the crowd I am having. So it will be a bit easy for me to explain things in a better manner.
Guys, you can write it in the chat box.
Okay, IT, computer science, security analyst, trying to make it. Okay, so I'm assuming most of you are college students, right?
Yes, I think they are. But some of the people are also working in the industry, like some beginners.
Okay. Good. It's really good to see you people are interested in these kind of topics. Okay, so I'll quickly start. So I'm not that kind of guy who would spend time on boring things. So enough of description. You can connect me in LinkedIn or anywhere, so you can explore more. No issues. Sometimes I post some of the dumb posts in LinkedIn and Twitter. So when you are bored, you can check that out. So no issues. So the topic SCADA. No, if somebody is thinking it's some like misspelling has happened and it's Skoda. No, it's not Skoda. It's SCADA. So both are very different from each other. Okay. So what I would say, like before we dig into SCADA, we should know what the actual reason we have SCADA in place, and what is SCADA and what actually it does. So so whatever we are doing today, it's like kind of industry grade security kind of thing. So it's like pen testing in industrial environment. So as you know, this is one of my favorite companies, manufacturing hub. As you can see, this is large, and this depicts the modern need that is expected from the industry. So like the industries are expected to be large, the industries are expected to be very efficient, they should be manufacturing more stuff in very less time. So this is the amount of coke that is getting produced every day. This is the stack, just to show, just to like, just to show the kind of uh, amount that we require every day, and the plants are thriving to manufacture such amount every day, and they are working 24x7. You can see this is a like stockyard of a car manufacturer, and you can easily see how many cars are standing there. So it's not an easy task to manufacture this much of uh, cars in a very short time. You can also see some of the bikes. These are all pictures collected from Google, just to show the like the scale that industries are working around. And as these days human intervention is very costly, and as we humans tend to do some mistakes, and we are not that much efficient as machines. So industries has taken down humans and they have introduced robots. So most of the works are done by robots, as you have already seen in like how many of you guys have seen Food Factory in Discovery Channel? Okay, I'm sharing my screen so I can't access the chat box. So it would be great if you can unmute and just say. Okay, so nobody has seen Food Factory.
So people are writing in the chat box.
Okay, so guys, what I would request that I'm actually sharing my screen, so that is the reason I could not see the chat box. Okay, so it would be great if I'm asking something or like I'm trying to be interactive. Please unmute yourself and you can talk. I don't mind people talking in my presentation, so I like it very much. Okay, so I want it to be very interactive, not that boring class lecture kind of thing. Okay, okay. So, yeah, beer grills. Okay. No, we are not having beer grills in the industry. I don't think people would like. Okay, so like we have introduced robots, we have introduced automation. As you can see in this picture, there would be shutting things in the store, which would order some stuff and it would get automatically produced by the automation and it would come to the store and people will buy it. So there is a supply chain that is working, that is completely operating upon automation. So you dig deep into that, like how this automation work and how this SCADA is related to that. So before that, just like a boring lecture, I have just written the definition of SCADA here. So SCADA is basically you can think it is a mixture of hardware and software. So like there will be some software interfaces for humans and some hardware devices implemented in the plants or industries. SCADA is a whole network kind of thing or a whole solution kind of thing with which you can actually monitor the manufacturing line or you can actually monitor the supply chain network and all. Okay. So we would dig deep and you will get to know what actually is SCADA. So I have pasted a SCADA environment here where you can see. Okay, I cannot see my mouse cursor, no issues. So what you can see in the left, you can see there are some HMIs connected. Then you can see a SCADA master server. Hope the fonts are readable to you, right?
Yes, they are readable.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So so what SCADA does is you can see there is a seed drilling platform, there is a oil rig, and there are some gas lifting stations and oil maintenance hub. Okay, and they are connected to some PLCs and RTUs, and they are connected to the one. So what these are? Actually, we have removed the humans from doing critical work. Like if I say, suppose in a Coke plant, like the Coca-Cola we love to drink every day. If you see in the Coke plant, you guys, most of you guys have seen in the Food Factory or any other videos that the bottling process itself is an automated process. The liquid mixing process is an automated process. The bottled are filled in an automated way, and the bottled are capped also in an automated way. And those all things that are doing those activities, those are actually hardwares. Those are being controlled by some of computers. So as a layman, you can say those are as computers, but they are not computers. They are something different. Okay. So this is how the network looks of an industry. Okay. So HMIs are the systems or the PCs where actually operators are sitting. Okay. So humans sit in the HMI. Okay. And they talk to a server which is actually called a SCADA master server. It can be a different server as well. Okay. So the SCADA server is connected to a wide area network. The wide area network is actually the industrial network of that particular plant. There should be some PLCs, programmable logic controllers, and some RTUs. They are called remote terminal units. So these guys sitting in the HMI, they would write a code or they would write a command, and they will pass that command to the SCADA master server. And the SCADA master server will process that code or command and pass that to the particular PLC or RTU it has been written for. So the WAN part, this can be of two types. It can be by TCP/IP or it can be by Profinet. Now the question is, what is Profinet? Profinet is something like it is called industrial Ethernet. So you can think of like the whole communication is happening via normal CAT cable, like the RJ45 cables you use. I don't think I don't think cable operators are using RJ45 now these days, but like before using fiber, the old kind of broadband cable, that is RJ45. Okay, so all the communications might be designed in RJ45 or Profinet, or it can be TCP/IP network, or like just the normal networks we see, like IP based networks. Okay, so I would show you something how the screen looks to the guy who is sitting in the terminal. So in the terminal, the all the components are shown in as a visualization. Okay, you can see here are certain things like you can see there is a boiler. It can be a boiler or it can be a chamber. You can see the temperatures. There are different pipelines, the connections. So the operator can change values from here. They can change values, and they can change values according to their needs and the requirement of the plant. Okay, this can be done very easily. So like one person sitting at a one place, he can actually control, like if I give example, that particular guy can control how much coke to be filled in bottles, or if I need to speed up the process of bottling, or if I need to like stop the bottling for some time because some broken glasses are there, somebody needs to go and clean that, I need to stop that, so I can stop that from here. If I press one off, it will get stopped. So it's like a kind of interactive software to control all the industrial equipments. So the industrial equipments are consist of mainly PLCs. PLCs are programmable logic controller. I have taken a Allen battery controller from internet and pasted it here so that you guys can have a look how actually it looks. So you can see here are like different components. The left part is the memory part, or you can see the CPU part. Okay, you can consider it as a CPU part, and the right side parts are IO modules. Okay, so I will show you different diagram from real parts. Okay, these guys have done very good uh, designing. So as you were seeing in the previous image, the left part is the processor part, and the right, there will be two modules. One is for input, one is for output. So you need to know how this thing works. So as you have seen that people who are sitting in the HMI or the SCADA interface, they were giving some programs like it can be like they are programming a conveyor belt. Okay, so the program would be like speed rotation speed 20, delay 1. So the rotation will be at speed of 20 rotations per minute, and there will be one delay, like after every loop it will stop for 1 second, then again it will start. So when they push that command, the command comes and gets stored in this controller head, or what we call as CPU of the PLC. So that logic is stored here. So sometimes the logic takes some input from other logic controllers, like there can be a sequential order kind of things. Like particularly if I say, if a package arrives from point B to point A, then only point A starts that to fill up. Like simply if I say, I'm taking example of a Coke factory, like Coca-Cola bottles are getting filled there. Okay, so like I'm sitting in a terminal where the Coke bottles will be filled up. Okay, so I would write a logic like that. So my input module will expect a 1, okay, from the sensor. Where the sensor is connected on the conveyor belt. So whenever a bottle appears on the conveyor belt, the sensor will sense the bottle and send a value 1 to my PLC. Okay, so that value will come to my input module, and my processor will read that value. Okay, I got 1. So in my main command or code, I have written that whenever you are getting 1, wait for 3 seconds, then start the filler. So my PLC will wait for 3 seconds. In the meantime, the conveyor belt will take the bottle to the receiving station to the point where it can be filled. After 3 seconds, this PLC will say, okay, so the bottle should have arrived. So it will ask the output modules to send command to the field devices that start filling the bottle till 5 seconds. So you see, everything is written and everything has some assumption from before. Like I, as a industry grade programmer, I have that knowledge that that bottle will take 3 seconds to come from the loading station to fill up station. And also I know that at 2 seconds or 3 seconds, I can fill up that bottle. So my nozzle will get activated for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, depending upon what I have written in the code, and it will fill the bottle. So after my output module has asked the filler to fill the bottle, the next PLC will wait for the input from my PLC. So what my PLC will do, after giving this output module a command like go fill up the bottle, it itself will wait for 3 seconds. Then again it will send another output to the next PLC that okay, my job is done. So when the next PLC receives the command that the previous PLC has completed its work, so the next PLC will start its work. What can be its work? It can be like clipping the caps or pasting the labels, whatever it can be. Okay, so this is how PLC works. And PLC, you can think of like PLC is the most basic part of industrial automation. Okay, or any SCADA environment is the most basic part. You may come across another term, that is RTU, or remote terminal units. So remote terminal units are nothing but PLCs, but they are rugged. Okay, so like these PLCs are actually prepared in a different manner, and mostly they are placed in a very far away location, like such as you can think of oil rigs or remote areas where you are collecting raw materials. So there these remote terminal units are deployed. So they do work in a similar fashion. So they also control this kind of field devices like they can control the conveyor belt, they can control the filling station, they can control different tasks also, like they can control robots which paint the cars. In a car paint booth, there are robots which are painting the cars. RTUs can control them also. Okay, so this kind of things this thing can do, but the only difference from PLC is it is a modern equipment, so it is basically easy to program. It takes modern programming languages as inputs, so the programs written in it would be VB or C hash, and these are mostly rugged ones. So like you can leave a RTU in a very dusty or in a hot situation, it won't fail. Okay, it would work. And this is very easy to connect with SCADA systems, because whenever you are using some computer level programming languages, and this thing also works on TCP/IP, so it's very easy to use in plants these days. If you see the newer plants or automated systems are getting dispatched, they are mostly using RTUs. Okay, simply I would say Adani ports, they are using mostly RTUs. If you see Tata Power, they are also using RTUs in most situation. Tesla also sometimes use RTU. They have some other concept also. They sometimes use DCS also. Okay, that is a different thing. I'm not going into DCS because that is different from SCADA. So hope you got the basic. So I have collected a small picture from real powers. This is a very basic example which shows how the automation work is being done. And I have taken a very simple example like Coke filling. Like I really love Coke. And no offense to Thumbs Up or other guys, but I love Coke. So I have used the example of Coke only. So like you can see there are 3 stages. Okay. So you can see from the main PC, the command goes to SCADA server. SCADA server is connected to the PLCs and RTUs. And when an engineer gives command or code from the engineering station, so the PC with WinCC written on it, that is the engineering station. Okay, where the engineer sits or the programmer sits and gives the commands. Okay. So the SCADA server will take the commands and it knows where to give the command. Okay. So it will pass on the command to the PLC at Coke liquid mixer. It will send the code for filling up bottle station, and it will also send the code to the RTU that is there in the packing or stacking station. So why I have used RTU in the last place? Because it shows the purpose. Like generally the manufacturing area and the packing area, they are in a very different zones. Okay, so in most of the plants you will see where they are actually manufacturing things, they stack up things or pack things in a different area. So that is like a little bit away from the main area. So I think we got a text. Okay, no. All right. So I have used the RTU for that. So I'll repeat what I was saying. Like one engineer sits here, he writes the code and the logic. He sends that to the SCADA server. The SCADA server will again accordingly it will transfer the codes to the particular stations like Coke liquid mixing station, filling up bottle station, and packing station. Okay, so this is how the whole thing is working. They are dependent on each other, because if you don't fill up the bottles, you cannot send that for packing. And also, if you don't mix up the liquid, if you don't prepare actually the Coke, there is no meaning to run the filling up station, right? And also you can see there are HMIs connected to each PLC and RTU. That is because whenever a guy is sitting locally in that area, he would be able to see what is the pressure, what is the threshold, and what not. So HMI is for them also, and it depends on the vendor if HMI is taking inputs or it takes input from only engineering station. That means these HMIs are mostly touch screens. Okay, so anyone working in the shift at coke liquid mixture, he sees that okay, my coke level, manufactured coke level is very high. I don't want to manufacture any more coke for next 45 minutes. That guy can particularly touch few settings in the HMI and stop the PLC for some time. Okay, if he does that, then certain commands will be given back, like some signals will given back to the SCADA server, and SCADA server will update the situation in the engineering station where the main programmer or the like shift in charge or the main engineer is sitting. Okay, so everything is in sync. Sometimes vendors lock these HMIs so that the shift guys, they don't have any access to tamper with. Okay, so how the attack happens? So this is a PC, and mostly if you visit industries, like any kind of industries, you will find lot of old operating systems are being used there. Like you will mostly see Windows XPs being used. Reason being that because industrial automation is something that people don't want to tamper with. Like if a plant has started manufacturing in 1980, people would prefer following that process every day rather than changing that, because in plant environment the requirement is completely different. So in IT sector, like if I am going to a company, CIA is the most required thing. So confidentiality is the topmost priority. My company data should not go anywhere. Then integrity is another pillar, because my data should be having an integrity, and availability is the last part. So it should be available, it's the last part. For industry, it's opposite. Availability is the highest priority. So the system should be available, because once you make Coke, the Coca-Cola company will earn money. If you are upgrading or patching your Windows machine and you have stopped the production, the company will not earn a penny for that particular time, and it can incur some big losses, because these kind of large companies, they have a very thin or very robust supply chain management systems. So if we are missing one shift, then it will affect a very large portion of sellers and distributors in the long run.
Agree.
Okay, so that is the reason you will see that the Windows machines are very old, so they get easily infected. How? These plant peoples, they don't understand IT very much. They mostly carry their USB sticks and they carry their codes in that USB sticks. Mostly malware infections happen, and this main engineering station get corrupted or acquired by someone else. Then it will affect the SCADA server. Once the SCADA server is taken down, the attacker or the automated code can easily hamper the PLCs and RTU. So this is how the attack goes. And what you see in IT, we have we always have redundant systems. Like if some portion of the systems go down, we have backups, we have some other systems running. So my DC will is quickly turn the connection to the DR and it will go into safe mode. This is how IT works. But in OT or in SCADA, there is no complete redundancy available. There will be some redundant things, like in dangerous areas they use two PLCs in different networks, but that redundancy is meant for like network level issues, like if the network is congested or some switch failover is happening, then they will take care of that. but they usually have one SCADA server or one SCADA engineering station or HMI. So that can, in that case, if your SCADA server is affected, then the whole system is automatically affected. And these softwares are mostly written in C# or Visual Basic. These are very old kind of things, and these are written without any secure coding practices and all. So like these are very easy to attack. And if you go to any plant, you will see like, if today you are visiting, you will see that software is from 2015, 2010, 2008, if not 1990. Okay, so that is a kind of problem. So I'm showing you another kind of compromise example. This is a different kind of scenario. I have tried to pick up a picture that depicts modern industry. So what you will see, there are three layers. One layer is corporate layer, then is SCADA, and last is the PLC RTU. These are the level 1 systems. So what they are, corporate layer is the layer where all the executives are sitting, the IT people are sitting. The executives are controlling the supply chain management. They are constantly in touch with the market. They are doing market survey. They are also changing the product definitions. They are changing, suppose, the formula of the thing they manufacture, or they might be changing the styling. If they are manufacturing a car, they might changing some styling and all. So these all things, they are happening in corporate network. Okay, there will be a firewall in between, or most companies, they opt for a DMZ. Then after the DMZ, there will be a SCADA network. So SCADA network is considered as a supervisory network. So like the supervisors or shift in charge, they will sit in the network, and in the computers, they will see what is happening in different areas. Like if I'm sitting in a SCADA network in a engineering station or a operator terminal, I that is a manufacturing hub for cars. I can see how many structures have been built, how the structures are being built, what is the speed, what is the value of each PLC, what is the value, what is the temperature running in my paint booth, how many liters of paint I have used. I can see whole sitting in the SCADA environment. Okay, in SCADA, in modern day, there might be a connection through a router or a VPN or anything, from where the operators or shift in charge, they also check the values from working home kind of situation. Like they are also working from home, they can remotely also check what are the values that is happening in the SCADA area. Okay, so you can see in the right, there is an internet, and there is also a small connectivity through a router. Okay, there can be firewalls, there can be switches and all. Below that, if you see, there is another PC, some routers and some engineering stations. They are for the workers working in the manufacturing sector. So they control the PLC values, they control how the speed of painting should be. They are changing values, changing inputs, and they are actually actively participating in the manufacturing process. And the last stage is the field devices, like the robots they are painting. Robot is a field device. If you see, that is a conveyor that is taking one thing from point A to point B. That conveyor is also a field device. So these kind of field devices are there down the line. Okay, so how the compromise happens? Compromise always come from internet. So if you have a bad firewall, or you have multiple allow rules there, or you have a bad router, it can get compromised, and an attacker can get into your SCADA network directly. This is happening in IIoT kind of situation, where companies are opting for like managing their plant premise from cloud. So this is one risk. Another risk is your office. Some adversary is actually compromised your office network. These days, office networks are the most vulnerable areas to be in. Okay, So if you have a bad PC or somebody has taken a laptop and connected into your office network, one compromised PC is there. So how the infection work? They will at first target the SCADA network if the threat is coming from internet. They will then access the wireless access point and the router. What they will do host enumeration, or they will find the machines that is present in the particular network, and also they will find out what all other networks that are connected to that particular network. So they will trace packets and all. Then what they will do, they will compromise the SCADA server. So SCADA server is the brain of all. So if you are compromising SCADA server, it will automatically compromise all the systems down the line. Right? This is how things are working. So how you would do pen testing if you are sitting in such kind of environment? So before running into the steps or your motivation towards SCADA pen testing, you should understand what are the main threats that are coming from outside or inside to the OT environment. Mainly malware, because these industry people, they carry mostly pen drives, they carry the code, they carry the logic, and sometimes they even carry their Excel sheets and all to their workplace via a pen drive. So if that pen drive is malware infected, that particular engineering station or the PC that guy is using, it will get infected. So malware infection is the mostly seen threat in plant environment. Second is human error. These plant networks, these are very weak. Like they carry very less bandwidth. If you give like 100 MB of a packet, it will crash immediately. So if a person is doing some error, or he's sending I would say like I'm transferring one large file, like I have carried a movie to my workplace and I'm copying that file in OT network. Yes, you can do, and people do these kind of things. Okay, so don't be like surprised to know that movie file in workplace. No, this thing happens. Okay, so if you are copying one movie file from one computer to another, the whole network can go down for that. In IT network, that is very small thing, but in OT, it's a very big thing. DDoS attacks. So mostly the plants are vulnerable to targeted attacks. So like somebody is trying to put down your manufacturing process, or they would be always trying to like stop your manufacturing process. Simply like if you are Coca-Cola, then your competitor will try that you don't manufacture Coca-Cola for one day. Or if you are a car maker, your competitor will wish that your doors are not being prepared for one day. So if your manufacturing line does not prepare doors for one day, think of that in a different situation. None of your cars will get completed because the cars need doors, right? Without those, the cars can't be called cars, right? So if you can stop any particular section of manufacturing area, it would give a massive impact on the business. In manufacturing industry, everything is linked. Simply if I say I'm a medicine preparation giant, I'm preparing medicines, and I'm preparing medicines in a bulk. But somebody attacked my cap manufacturing facility. So the my medicine bottles are having caps. So the cap manufacturing facility is affected. So then what happens? I have 1 million doses of cough syrups, but none of them are having cap. So they are useless for me. I cannot sell them. And also I'm late. So they don't need to compromise the whole network. If they can compromise a part of your main network or part of your main manufacturing hub, the whole system will get affected. Another thing is slowing down the network. If I manage to slow down your network, the PLC, what I was saying in initially, like the PLC waits for a input value from a previous PLC. So suppose like if you are a bottling plant, you are waiting for the conveyor belt to send you a one, then you will start working, but the network is slow. So the previous PLC is sending you the data, but you are getting it after 2-3 seconds. And in the logic, it is written that after you receive that, you wait for 3 seconds, then start filling up the bottle. So what it is actually happening? The conveyor is sending your UA input and sending the bottle. You are waiting after you get the one, you would wait for 3 seconds. But that one is coming to you after 3 seconds automatically because your network is slow. So you have waited 3 seconds for the one. Now you have got the one. Now, due to the logic, you will wait another 3 seconds. So you are actually waiting for 6 seconds. The bottle is at your end, but it is sitting idle for 3 more seconds. Then you filling it up and passing it to next station. So it almost implies that if you make 50,000 bottles a day, you will be making 25,000 bottles a day just because that slow network. So this much of impact can happen. So in IT, when you do pen testing or when you do anything that kind of stuff, our intention is to find any big vulnerability. Suppose I can take over your machine. I can do injections in your application and I can dump your credentials. So dumping IT credentials does not mean that that company is losing huge amount of money. I'm not going into GDPR. That's a different thing. But still, if you dump credentials, that does not necessarily mean that company will instantly suffer financially, right? But in OT or in industrial network or SCADA network, if I can introduce a delay of only 3 seconds, I can reduce your income by 50%. Correct. So the impact is endless. You can do anything in SCADA if you are having a bad mindset. So when you are given a chance to do pen testing in OT environment, you have to think about those things first. You have to think like these small findings, what can be the consequences of that. So in IT, what do? We normally in assessment areas, what people do, they do run an SS scan, they find out the findings, then they like remove the low ones or mediums ones. They said, oh, SSL issues, remove. Okay, some robot vulnerability, remove, no issues. Sweet 32, oh, who reports that? Remove Sweet 32. So we work like that in IT. But in OT, you observe a latency of 2 seconds. Report that. Don't ignore that. That can be very lethal to your manufacturing systems. Okay. So what can be the threat actors? They can be cyber criminals. They are sitting around and they would be hardening random plants, mostly power plants, to create some nuisance around the government. There can be some depressed groups, like you have created a nuclear power station and the locality is not happy about it, and the localities are having some of the people who are evil-minded hackers. They will be attacking your infrastructure badly to hamper your mind. Okay, that can happen. Competitor funded cyber criminals. So your competitor might fund somebody to attack your systems. It happens. And also the big threat, that is employees with improper training. There is a boiler that boils the coal in a particular temperature to create power in a power generation area. So the temperature of that boiler needs to be monitored, and you have to input the correct temperature in different times. If that is going beyond the threshold temperature, you should stop that for some time, then restart that. If your employee is not at all trained, what he will do? He will leave that. That would lead to a disaster. And one disaster at one place, it will affect the whole thing. So in normal scenario, how you get to do pen test in SCADA network? Mostly there are several layers in industrial network. What are they? They are level 0. Level 0 is consisting of, if you are a car maker, the robots, they are painting your car. That is in level 0. You are in a bottling plant, the system that fills the bottle, that is in level 0. The rotor that moves the conveyor belt, that is in level 0. So all the hardwares that are working for you, they are called level 0. Then the PLCs and RTUs, these are the controlling units or the controllers. They are called level 1 systems. Above that, there will be level 2 systems. What is level 2? Level 2 is SCADA network or observation network, where the operators or the in charge sit and see how the automated process is doing the work. They would sit and see, and if required, they would change the code or they would introduce a manual value to like bypass the code. Okay, that is level 2. Then there is called level 3. What level 3 does? Level 3 has a big server which actually records all the things happening in your plant, all the data that is being transmitted, all the codes that you have uploaded or changed. Everything is logged in a server that is called historian. In SCADA, it is a very big thing. Like if you can hack somebody's historian, you will even get secret recipe. Not the secret recipe of KFC, they don't prepare that way, but you may find secret recipe of Coke and prepare that in your house. Okay, so historian is a very critical unit. There is also some integration with SAP, like some business oriented people sitting in your management group, they might want to see how your automated manufacturing process is performing. Like they take data periodically from your SCADA systems, like how many bottles we manufacture average, how many bottles we are manufactured today, how many cars we have painted today, in winter how many cars we are required to paint. So they do all the planning, and this kind of integration to in these days are happening because the management people also want to know particular numbers from the production systems in real time. Okay, so there will be another integration server or EWS. Okay, after that, what will be there? There will be a demilitarized zone or DMZ, which will have another replica of all these systems and a connectivity to business systems. So what happens? Sometimes the CTO of your company, he also might want to visit your plant environment and see what all are codes that you are running and what all are the machines they are there. If the antivirus is patched in your systems, these kind of things they want to get visibility. And sometimes your chief manufacturing officer or chief engineer, he sits in the enterprise network, he might want to connect to your network. So these kind of things are happening these days, because previously what used to be like, if you are a car maker company, your IT network and your OT network are air gapped. Like there is no direct link in between. There is no physical link in between. So you cannot go from IT network to your OT network in any way. You have to go to the plant, you have to sit on a machine and access all the data that is happening in your plant. So that used to be in that way. Okay. But these days, due to pandemic and due to some other stuff, people are opting for this kind of IT OT convergence, and they have introduced DMZ and all, and they have connected their business with the production. And if you see in kind of steel makers, power plants, this is usual stuff that you will see business people are accessing the plant network to check some data. Okay. So your Pentest laptop is connected. Usually they give you the connection at level 3. So the historian is connected to your network. So what things you can do when your laptop is connected to a SCADA network or a industrial network and you are trying to do pen testing. So what you should do is like fast motive should be you should find out hosts, because as happens in our IT network, there is a AD kind of thing. So you cannot quickly insert your device into the network. It won't work. If you connect your personal laptop with LAN to your office network, it won't work because that device is not registered on the AD. But in plants, there is no AD concept. You connect to the network using dynamic IP system, dynamic IP allocation system. Your laptop or your mobile will have an IP, and you will be part of that network. So whenever somebody gives you the task of pen testing in industrial network or SCADA network, do find out the hosts that are present and check if those hosts should be present in the network or not. That is a big task that you should do. Okay. The second thing, these SCADA networking devices, suppose engineering stations, historians, they are mostly managed by IP addresses and MAC addresses. So the TCP IP layers, different layers, they don't work for them very well because most of them are connected via Profinet or Ethernet cables. So whenever you see some hardware is connected via IP and both are communicating, you try to impersonate that IP address and MAC and try to connect with them. In most cases, you will get the connection. And what I am saying, if you try to compromise the historian or if you want to take data out of historian, you have to be a trusted device. How to be that trusted device? Just collect the IP address and MAC address of the engineering station, spoof that into your machine, use Kali as usual, use Kali, do that, you will get connected. Then you can easily take dumps of databases. Mostly they are not encrypted because the industrial equipment is required to be very much available. The availability factor is the highest factor. So encryption is very bad for them. If you are using your machine's CPU for encryption, it will slow down. So they don't use encryption at any point. Most of them are not encrypted. Modern day systems are trying to introduce encryption and all, but still that is in a primitive stage. Okay. Then you have to find out where you are actually in the network, and you have to try to see if you can intercept the request from master to slave. So here is another concept called master slave concept. What is that? The SCADA server, it acts like a master, and all the PLCs and RTUs, they act like slaves. So what the master says, the slaves will do. So what the SCADA server says, the PLCs and RTUs will do. Okay. So you have to think about a probability where you can do a man in the middle kind of attack on the master slave network and intercept the request and responses. If you intercept those requests and responses, you will see those are written in a very basic format, and you will see the header, the request code, and there will be some RST or error value in the end. So from that you can actually take out the logic that is being transferred. And if you are good at MLTM, you can also tamper that the lower grade PLC, it will work differently. Simply I'm telling my use case. Like simply your SCADA server is saying the PLC, okay, paint color red. You intercepted that request. You change that to from red to blue. So bam, somebody booked a red Volkswagen, but they will be delivered a blue Volkswagen. Simple as that. This is kind of attack you can do. Also, the SCADA software that is mostly built upon Visual Basic or CHAS. Okay, so and also they are very primitive kind of programming that you will see there. Okay, so bypassing their authentication mechanism, doing SQL injection will be very easy. So don't forget to find that in the network. The SCADA software won't be available as it is. Okay, you have to find that in the network. You have to do host enumeration. Okay. Then in SCADA network, don't try to be over offensive. Don't run MSH scans. Don't just attack the systems. Okay, they will just go in sleep. So DOS is the easiest thing. If you go to a plant for a pen testing assignment, and if you show them, okay, I have done DOS, they will be like, that is none of our use. We are not interested in DOS because everyone knows plant systems are very delicate. If you send a particularly a big data, I'm not saying about Hadoop, like 100 MB of data, it will crash. Even I have seen some PLCs not able to handle 10 MB of data. Okay, if you simply send a packet of 10 MB, it will crash. So don't try to do DOS and go back to the plant owner and say like I have done this kind of things. Don't do that. What else you can do? Do netcat, sit in the network and see what are the protocols that are being transferred in the network. So in plant network, all the systems are like very primitive. They talk to each other in very primitive protocols, and there are some particular protocols being used. And you must see SMB being used because they use SMBs to share the files. So the network file transfer thing that will happen in plants. You will see that. You have to find out that SMB communication or telnet based logins and dump credentials and take ownership of that machine. Don't try to do DOS, but do intercept and read the traffic for a while. For that, you need to master Wireshark at some extent. Do that and do intercept the traffic and understand what is happening. Okay, you can also use Scapy to create your own packets and send that to the host and see what response it is giving. That is more important. Okay, and also the final part and the very lucrative part for any pen tester, the operating stations and the engineering stations, they are mostly based out of Windows, and these Windows are old Windows like Windows 7, Windows XP. Even I have found Windows 98 last week, so they are very old. So you have to find out what all are the possibilities you can take hold of that machine. You can do something that is not required to do from that particular machine. Don't do DOS. Try to change some IO value, try to change some logic in code if you can hold up that machine. Okay. This kind of use cases you can do. Last, the sample nmap scripts. These are like the very noob level scripts that I'll show. One is, I have given two examples. If you can see, I have also written a post earlier that also says the same thing. So minus SL switch is very much needed when you are doing any host scan or anything in plant network, because the SL, what will do, it will do the minimum probing. Okay, minimum probing is very much required, else several hosts will be contacted at once and that can congested the network. It will create a congestion in the network and the network can break. Also, don't forget to use scan delay. because what Nmap does is Nmap blasts the host with one upon another queries. So that should not be done in plant networks. And also limit the rate, and max parallelism should be always 1. Don't try to do a parallel scanning in plant network. This will come handy once you go to the plant for a assessment. You will find that this is very handy. Otherwise, if you are using angry IP scanner or something like that, then don't forget to apply for leave without pay. Okay. So the second script says that is also similar kind of script, that is for mostly port discovery. So what we have seen that you should be using -st. What it does, whenever it is creating a TCP request, it will close that properly. So like half handshake packets will not be sent to the host. Otherwise, the host will crash very badly. Similar kind of thing, scan delay should be there, max parallelism should be 1. And below I have written 2 commands that you should never use in the plant. The first one is simple nmap scan, which actually does ping sweep. Ping sweep is a attack in OT environment. Don't do that. It's an attack. Yes. Okay. So what we guys, when we learn to run nmap, we do run these kind of scripts in normal IT environment. Okay. But in OT, these are like very, very bad kind of script. And also don't do -PA scans or half acknowledgement scans. If you do this, your PLC will break down and the plant owner will kill you. So these are the basic things that I wanted to share. Or for any more details, you might want to check my LinkedIn profile or my blog. I'll be writing some in detail blogs over the time. And oops, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.